Hello and welcome to We've Been Watching TV Review Podcast with Claire Woodward and me, David Stevenson.
Hello.
Hello. I've just had the COVID vaccine, so if you hear a thud, it's me.
Oh. Did they warn you about the allergies? What are you supposed to be allergic to? I mean, you know, because I'm reading my little card today and it says you might feel drowsy or drop dead or something.
They ask you about that, and they ask you if you've done any foreign travel in the last 2 weeks, and I was saying a chance would be a fine thing. Everybody laughing at the same jokes made by everybody turning up, which I thought was great. And allergies, I think hay fever was one of them. That was the most boring one probably they'd ever heard. I mean, I wanted something a bit more exotic, but on the spot, couldn't come up with anything. But
they get through you. Good, they get through you by the sound of things as well. So I suppose they're just the same jokes are quite handy, aren't they?
Yeah. How's your TV watching week been, Claire?
Well, it's been Meghan and Harry wall to wall, hasn't it? All the way on every programme with lots of people saying to beautiful young mixed race women, how do you feel about everything on every possible news bulletin? And I think Oprah Winfrey is probably the only person in the world who's smiling after this, really, isn't she? She's thinking about the money.
Yeah, I think her bank balance has done really well out of this. But when I watched it, I got about 35 minutes in and I thought, I think I'm going to have to go to bed. I don't know. It was the sheer excitement of it that just sort of catapulted me upstairs. I couldn't go on with it. I really didn't like the style of it because it felt, you know, with the greatest respect to our American friends, it felt very American and very cozy. So I couldn't take it initially. And then I finally got back into it when Harry appeared. But the style of it, what did you think of the style of it?
Well, it was, as you say, it was very bland, very American. And by the way, on a television note, did you realise the chairs and tables in the garden were made by a company owned by one of the Brady Bunch kids?
Oh, well, that is a great reference, the Brady Bunch. Oh, well, I like it even more now. I thought that was
Here's a story of a man called Harry. Yeah, that kind of thing. But presumably it was done with an eye to international sales, wasn't it? You know, as bland as possible. There was as little visual distraction as possible. So as not to offend anybody. I mean, I think it was done, you know, it was sort of Janet and John interviewing, wasn't it? I mean, Oprah's a very good interviewer. But Harry and Meghan, she knew they were going to spill the beans anyway.
Did it feel rehearsed to you? It felt like she knew the answers that were coming, and there was a bit of media training on the other side. And her reactions seemed quite predictable. The shocking reactions of hands in the air, you know, face lighting up as if, oh my God, I've got a story here. But I mean, that's either very clever of her, or it was spontaneous. But that's the sort of style of stuff that, I mean, I don't think do we have interviews like that in this country? I don't think we do, really.
I think we have more Rottweilers. I mean, you know, she was no Emily Maitlis, was she, with Andrew? I mean, don't forget Oprah. She's been an actress as well, hasn't she? She was in The Colour Purple or something. So, you know, Oprah's, you know, when Meghan talked about the discussion about Harry's and her babies, how dark it would be, when Oprah went, no, it seemed a bit stagey to me.
Perhaps they'll do a soap together, the two of them, a daytime soap.
It would be fabulous. The Windsor, we've already got the Windsors, haven't we? It's got Harry Enfield in it. But yeah, I mean, it was soapy. And as you say, you know, when Harry came in for part 2, and he started reeling back a bit, you know, because Meghan was all, oh, yes, this and this. And Harry was, well, yes, it did happen, but I can't say who. So he was like the sort of disappointing gossip, wasn't he?
I know, it was a weird structure, wasn't it? I wonder why they had that structure. Well, they had it with Harry just popping in later. I mean, who was meant to be top billing here? That was the weird thing. Was it meant to be Meghan? You know, was it meant to be the Suits actress? You know, I mean, her acting skills, if she was deploying them, and let's give her the benefit of the doubt, were great. I mean, you've got to give it to her. And quite measured at points as well. But isn't that the difficult thing about this interview, to separate what is really the story and the truth of that story with the whole style of it?
Well, I mean, this is why Oprah's a millionairess, isn't it? She's the woman that America and the world opens up to. So presumably, the planning for this program was absolutely done with military precision. Ask this here, gasp here, Harry will come on to be the starter, and blah blah blah. I mean, I'd have loved to have known what the negotiations were to do the program, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're literally pages long.
And the fact that most of it was on neutral ground, or what they called a friend's house, I thought that was interesting. Or someone who lived in the same road, apparently. I mean, I imagine they're not popping around and getting a cup of sugar in that sort of road, are they? Sort of send your funky PR around.
I did expect to see your barbecue in the background, David. I thought they might have gone round to your house, but
Happy to do that. I'm happy to entertain Archwell.
Yeah, for round 2, maybe you can have Camilla and Charles going, I did not say that in your garden.
But I noticed that Archwell is behind, because Archwell is a content media company now, and they will be producing all of the TV shows that are going to come out from Netflix and the audio stuff for Spotify. So I really feel that by the end of the year, we're going to get the start of some sort of reality show centered around that chicken coop, I would imagine.
That's great. There'll be lots of collecting chickens, won't there? And they won't be eating them by your barbecue. So that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, I mean, we haven't heard the second part of the Spotify podcast, have we? They released that one at Christmas. It was just celebrities saying, lockdown's a bit crap, isn't it? Yes, Elton John, thanks very much. So I don't know I just, all they have to sell is the reality series, isn't it, David? All they have to sell is themselves.
I see. It's interesting where they're going to go from here, because they've really given us the best insider stuff they've got, haven't they? The 2 greatest stories they've already put out there, the racism and other things. But I mean, really, those stories are probably the most bankable. I mean, what are they going to talk about next? I mean, I just thought the only thing they can end up, she talked about Zooming the Queen, didn't she? Or phoning the Queen. Maybe she'll have to Zoom next time, and we'll look at the Queen having a boiled egg or something. I mean, how could this reality show actually take form, I wonder?
Well, I mean, I'm just liking the idea of the Queen on a Zoom call, because you'll be thinking, well, she won't be having any books on her shelves like you, David, and you've got a globe there, I noticed. So she won't be as interesting as you. She'll just have tatty carpets and footmen going, oh, this carpet's a bit threadbare. But yeah, what's going to be in it? I mean, are people want to? Are their friends going to buy into their world? Are they going to see international music producer David Foster in the background, popping around for a cup of sugar? Or, who else are their friends? They're kind of everybody, aren't they? Because everybody in Hollywood will want to know Meghan and Harry. So, they've got dynamite on their hands if you've got the Real Housewives of Montecito County, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Kardashians, well, I got something through the other day. They're on their last series. So they can fill that void. It's a rather large void, sort of several voids, isn't it?
It's a rather large bum-shaped void, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, what are the people who watch the Kardashians? They'll come to something like that with the most ridiculous expectations, won't they?
Yes, I mean, what do people move on to when they finish watching the Kardashians, I wonder? I mean, it won't be, I don't know, maybe it's Bridgerton, but it won't be War and Peace, will it? But I mean, there's an eternal void, isn't there, for programs like that, and particularly they have to regionalize. The Real Housewives of Bolton, everything in this country, whereas you've got an international package ready made, haven't you, for the Montecito duo? Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, Oprah will just be the bank balance. Oh yeah, exciting, totally. And amazing.
But they'll have to come up with something a little bit concrete, won't they, Harry and Meghan? I mean, to really make it fly again. Although people are satisfied with just a little bit, and they do inspire a lot of love on social media, as well as quite a bit of dissent, frankly.
Well, I mean, that's what everyone's looking for, isn't it? You know, the social media love. I mean, I think people, you know, they commission people, don't they? As, you know, do you want a series? How many Instagram followers have you got? You know, influencers are getting on Strictly Come Dancing now, aren't they? So that's a big thing, isn't it? I mean, also, I was thinking, they're very big on mental health, aren't they? But how entertaining can you make a program about mental health?
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
You know, it's not terribly fit. Yeah, and it really is like, you know, my mental health is terrible, and it's like, well, yes, but you're lots of money and you're in a really big house. How's it going to be for the rest of us?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for them. That issue is tough to put across on television, isn't it? I mean, there's only one way of doing it. You know, there's no, you know, there isn't a lighter side of this. It's a difficult, serious issue. So the stuff is going
the
to
lighter
be
side of going round the bend.
the lighter side of mental health isn't going to be the subject. It's not going to be the title of it, is it? So how many stars are we giving? I don't know whether we're doing stars, but we could do stars. I mean, I don't know.
Let's do stars. Yeah.
Let's do stars.
I mean, I have to say, I did stay up and watch it on Facebook, and there were some amazing revelations. I mean, I would give it 4 just for wow content, but really, you know, they certainly need, you know, the young generation dancing in the background for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a solid 4 star. I'll give it a solid 4 stars because I was asleep by the end of it, but not in the same room as it. So, I mean, I think a solid 4 stars. And you know, it's a great entree for what is yet to come.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I look forward to them inviting us on their podcast to you know, so we can show them how it's done, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's return to the sort of the pedestrian UK and what they're doing on television, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about a very sort of sexy and dynamic couple on Sunday night on ITV, McDonald and Dodds, who are probably, you know, a little bit less interesting.
They are,
or a lot less interesting. Yeah,
but they're the only detective duo we know with a catchphrase. I think they are. That is the only something to do. It's not on your bandwidth. Is that the catchphrase that we're meant to?
That does appear to sort of, you know, indicate that, you know, pedestrian Dodds, played by fantastic Jason Watkins, is not hip to the tip, Daddy-O. You know, he wears a beige raincoat whilst doing his detecting, and he eats lots of pie and chips. Sounds great to me, but he's not with it. Whereas his partner she's his superior, isn't she? She's the sergeant.
She's DCI to his sergeant, isn't she? But I mean, what's interesting, and I've been writing about this. He doesn't have a Christian name, does he? He is DS
just
Dodds, which I mean, a bit of a nod to Morse. But I was thinking whether Morse had a catchphrase. I don't think he really did. I think it was "Let's go to the pub, Lewis" used to be his catchphrase.
Lewis, that was his catchphrase, wasn't it? But I mean, I think you can see what they've tried to do with McDonald and Dodds. They're trying to make a star out of Bath, aren't they? The sort of honeyed walls of Bath as opposed to Oxford.
Yeah, absolutely. Haven't they? Well, what's interesting is, of course, the other thing that's been shot there is Bridgerton. So by sheer chance, ITV has sort of stumbled, or Bridgerton has stumbled into Bath, and they're both winning from it, aren't they? I mean, it does look fantastic on the screen, doesn't it, McDonald and Dodds? I mean, much like Morse in a way, really.
It does. Well, I mean, but I just found it quite heavily referenced because this week's episode was about a sort of girls' weekend away in Bath, and then you got Sharon Rooney eating a Bath bun and explaining what a Bath bun was, as opposed to a Sally Lunn bun, which I shall be attempting to eat later in the episode. Sorry, that's an Edinburgh accent, not a Glasgow one. So, you know, they're quite heavily lathering on, you know, the sort of regional stuff like butter on a Sally Lunn. Which is fine, and it was this workman-like drama, but I didn't warm to it for some reason, and I think 2 hours not to warm to something.
That's interesting, because I think the quality of it, if there is there, we can talk about that. But I mean, it's the story. I think the storytelling. I find the stories quite hard to pick, really. And you know, as someone who's sort of, you know, morning, noon, and night is watching detective dramas. I mean, you get used to about halfway through checking off the normal checklist of, most well-known guest star tick, and you work from that. You work from that basis. But I find the writing quite clever.
Yeah, I guess so. But I just didn't get what's the thing about these two detectives? What's the, Dodds is the one who's a bit old and a bit, not with it, and McDonald is the young woman, and they've got a boss. Is it who's played by handsome young
James
guy?
Murray? Is it James? No, is it James Murray?
James Murray, yes, in form-fitting police outfit. Don't know why I noticed that. But so you've got him, but there's just it's just not very deep. But now you've mentioned that we don't know Dodds' first name. I want to know all about him now. I want to know about his home life and his family and where he gets his anoraks from.
That's the really deep mystery of the show, isn't it? But when you compare it with something like Death in Paradise, I think it's better than something like Death in Paradise, where I think the writing has suffered a little bit down the ages that it's been. It feels like 10 ages of man since Death in Paradise started. But I think it's a cut above. It's a cut above that. But you're right. There isn't really that much of a relationship between the two. She's like a sort of picky auntie or something, isn't she? Sort of prodding him and complaining about him having butter on his chips and replacing it with margarine. I mean, was that the most sort of tedious bit of television this week?
It was the other catchphrase, wasn't it? Here's some margarine. I like that. Yeah, that's fabulous. But yes, there's kind of not much to it. They're a nice pair. It's a nice relationship, but it's just like, somebody liking their colleague. But I mean, I thought this week John Thompson would have done it because he's the leading, the best known actor in it, I thought. But I liked all the references to Isambard Kingdom Brunel. It brought in a bit of history television, which I enjoyed. That was
the most interesting stuff about it. I mean, I was more interested in that tunnel than most things, to be frank.
Yeah, we should get Tim Dunn to do a series on historical murders in train tunnels for the Yesterday channel. That'd be my ideal programme, I think.
Based on dam walls or viaducts. The all murders on viaducts. I mean, we've had, yes.
Murder on concrete. There you go, David.
That's the next one.
Put that.
Well, I can see you're not going to give a very high score for poor old McDonald and Dodds, are you?
Well, I mean, I think really it's because I've spent some of the week watching old Endeavours, and frankly, nothing compares to you, Endeavour. So I'd give it a 3. Solid Sunday night viewing, but nah.
I'll give it 4 just because I know ITV love it so much and they've held back the 3rd episode. I don't know why they're holding it back. For God's sake, give us what you've got on this, I mean, we've got precious little to watch anyway. I mean, but anyway, the 3rd episode of the series, that's the other ongoing mystery, I'm afraid, as to when that's going to turn up. So, all right, I'll give that 4 stars just because I quite like it. It's quite gentle. It's proper Sunday night, but
it is proper Sunday night. And what's that new thing that ITV have commissioned this week? They've commissioned a lady police drama this week, haven't they?
Yeah, I think that's based on.
But I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I think it's called. The books are called Metropolitan. I think Patrick Harbinson, the writer, is doing the adaptation. So I expect that'll be a little bit grittier. I read some of the synopsis and it starts with someone falling off a 6-story building. So I'm like,
well, as long as they don't. What was that series? Oh, The Chief with that American guy in it. It's on ITV, and I think someone fell off a wind turbine. That was quite exciting. So it's a long way to go to beat The Chief.
With that, I quite like that. Someone on a wind turbine. Again, that was quite different, wasn't it? Well, I mean, there's something gritty. Unforgotten. I mean, I know you're a great lover of Unforgotten. I really think this is a cracking series, this one.
I think it's actually the best so far because we know about the lead characters. And I think, it's always special mention for Sonny's backpack. Wherever he goes, he's got the backpack with him. So well done. And I'm surprised it hasn't been but it's just fabulous the way Chris Lang unfolds the drama, doesn't he? With all the possible murderers, it's genius. I've never seen anything like it. Have you?
No. So is he your desert island crime writer then? Your crime screenwriter to take on to the desert island? He is very good because these are original stories, and he does craft them and pace them so well, doesn't he?
Mm.
I mean, people underestimate pace in the
yesterday's.
Sorry.
Absolutely. I'm just talking to him on Twitter. Can you hear me now, Mother?
Yeah,
I was talking to him on Twitter, and I said, on Twitter, I said, are your walls full of Post-it notes in the office? Because the plotting is so intricate. And he said, no, they just fizz around in my mind and I write them down, And I said, well, you must have a very big brain, because they are very intricate. Because, effectively, the details of all the sort of ex-coppers in this, their personal lives are in such amazing detail, aren't they? We see them at home, we see them, in business, we see them with their partners. They're just amazing character studies. And then you layer on to the police people and their families. It's just extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
It is, and I'd like to see a little bit more detail about Sanjeev's character, though, because last episode he was meant to help with the moving and didn't do that. So I was a bit disappointed we didn't get a little bit more about, I don't know, his wife being very cross that he wasn't involved. But Nicola's character is very interesting because there's a lot going on there, isn't there? I mean, her own struggles with mental health, of course, then wanting to sort of leave the police and not being able to because of the pension, which was another one of those sort of rather banal details, which was absolutely brilliant. I thought, yeah, and I thought, God, every police officer were going, yes, absolutely, this has happened to me. He's brilliant, Lang, the way he can sort of touch on those tiny issues, I think.
It's brilliant. I mean, I'd like to see a lot more of Peter Egan as well as her father, who's going to be going downhill with dementia fairly shortly. But I mean, I think this is a role when you're an actor over 65, isn't it? It's, unless you're in Last Tango in Halifax, it is your role to die or develop a terrible illness. But Peter Egan's, he's still hot, and I'd just like to see Chris Lang, write another series of Peter Egan where he plays a man who's sort of nice and doesn't die. But he is such a great actor, he plays it in an understated fashion. But yeah, I would like to see more of Sonny's family, because I think we just saw his partner tutting and rearranging some shelves.
I know, I love those. I love those little.
Maybe the biggest relationship he has is with his backpack. I don't know.
But there's two other great performances. I think Sheila Hancock's performance in it is fantastic as the mother upstairs being cared for in the house, and then her daughter Susan Lynch, who's going to be chief constable, one of the suspects, and they have this sort of completely explosive relationship, don't they? And Sheila Hancock's on the telephone to her in the first episode. I just something about I respect you've got something balls, she said to her, which I thought was fantastic, but sort of growled it down the telephone as well.
Yeah, actually, I mean, she's the sort of actress, you just look at her looking out the window at Susan Lynch cycling off to work as a policewoman and go, oh, the face on that. Oh, she's but we don't know about, we know they've got a bad relationship. We wondered why. We're just gagging to find out about it. And Andy Nyman's fantastic as well, isn't he? He's a suspect who's got the son with learning disabilities, and he's a great guy, but he's also, as we know, a people smuggler.
Absolutely. And the other detective who's the suspect as well. I mean, it is incredible to get these two things, that and upcoming Line of Duty, which deal with police corruption, isn't it? And for both of these things to be arriving at the moment when other cases are going on in real life, which we shouldn't really mention, but it is sort of timely as well, rather bizarrely.
I mean, what do we think Line of Duty is going to deliver? I mean, I've to be honest, there's so much telly on now that I kind of forget what happens. So I've reacquainted myself with all the new series of Line of Duty, and I think I've still forgotten what's happened. So I wait with the last series with trepidation, because I know I'll just be going, who's that? And but were they in that last series? And have they had a facelift?
But there are a lot of there are a lot of detective things around. I mean, and I have seen the first episode of the next series of Line of Duty, and of course, I can't say anything about it, but it is absolutely.
Was it good, David?
It was very good.
Did you enjoy it?
I think it was an easy 5 stars, really. I did enjoy it, and I was completely taken in. Again, I mentioned pace in police thrillers, and Jed Mercurio just knows how to pace these thrillers so brilliantly. But if I keep talking about it, I'll say something and give away. I mean, the list of spoilers is as long as 3 arms, basically. So I daren't say anything more about it, but I do recommend it, and we'll chat about that next week, really, won't we?
Oh, next week, how exciting. Oh, great. But no, for me at the moment, Unforgiven is just the right pace, and it's just very human. That's what I really like about it. You know, we do see people's foibles and we understand them. And I think Chris Lang is a brilliant writer on that level. And this is why I'm not surprised he writes quite a lot for sort of European TV. You know, he's got a French series on Netflix. You know, he's got a real supernatural understanding of how the human heart works, and that's what makes him so terrific.
Absolutely. I think we'll give that 5 stars and just hope it continues to be
an easy
brilliant.
5 stars. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, right. Next,
where should we go now?
We go to Heathrow next.
Do you know, I haven't watched Heathrow. We haven't watched Heathrow, but I mean, that doesn't mean we can't talk about Heathrow.
Well, it doesn't matter, David, because it's just a nice programme about Heathrow, Britain's busiest airport, not being busy during a pandemic.
Was it deserted though? Was that the whole point?
It was quite deserted. There was quite a lot of stuff about people with steam things, cleaning things, and a woman going missing. And she turned out to be this fella's wife and not his sister. And it was narrated by Julie Walters. And I wouldn't watch it again because it was a bit dull. Sorry, but it was.
I think based on that recommendation, I will watch it, because I thought the appeal was going to be that, oh, here's a deserted, hit the too busy airport. Wouldn't it be great to be back there? And everyone going, God, don't you remember the time when we turned up there and went to, Costa Coffee and had that wonderful cappuccino before we flew out, and we left your toothbrush at home,
that
all
breakfast
this sort of stuff.
Beer. Yeah. But no, you can see it's a schedule filler. Basically, there's so little factual stuff, I guess, that people have been able to make that, it was probably a quick turnaround thing for ITV. And it was, put it this way, it was no airport. There weren't people turning up for EasyJet flights going, you sod, you bleep, 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 my flight's gone and you wouldn't let me on. I don't know how they're gonna pad it out for the next few weeks. But if you like
it's a victory for the PRs at Heathrow. Victory for the PRs at Heathrow, isn't it, to get this show
plucky little airport carrying on under pressure, bless them, narrated by Julie Walters, which is nice. So again, it's 2.5 stars from me, and you can't give it any because you haven't watched it.
I'm not going to give it any, but I'll watch it next week under sufferance now. I mean, I will give it a go. I mean, we're talking about formats that have been done under the duress of the pandemic. I mean, I reckon worst of the week, we're going to give a worst of the week, is The Best House in Town. Did you watch Best House in Town? A daytime.
It's just another one of those shows, isn't it? It's just like pick one word. You've got the word house. You've got best, you've got the competitive element, you've got lots of, you've got a commissioning editor going, lots of people are looking to move out of London, blah, blah, blah. It's just another one. There's so many great shows about houses. Why watch this other one? No, not for me.
No, I think it was a really cheap show. I mean, it really, I couldn't believe we were having yet another format. I mean, we're running out. I mean, the previous week we had a thing set in a town as well. I think it was Stratford-upon-Avon, and they were choosing houses there. I mean, this is just another sliver of the same format, really. And 5 people going around various houses. The first one they went into was a railway cottage. And one of the people said, oh, it hasn't got underfloor heating. I thought, well, I bet your house hasn't got underfloor heating either. I mean, it struck me as the pettiest criticism when they probably didn't have it. You know, they walk into every house with their shoes off and going, oh, God, where's your underfloor heating? I mean,
in a railway cottage as well. I mean, it's not as if, you know, some sort of 18th century, you know, guards person like the railway net. But as you say, I think people should be aware of what's been commissioned under lockdown, because, you know, all of a sudden these big dramas just came to an end and everyone's gone, crikey O'Reilly, what can we fill the schedules with? And I have seen some commissioning documents, and what they're looking for is literally homely programs, people that make people feel good under lockdown, people that, you know, that they think that people will go, oh, you know, when lockdown's over, I'll move house, blah, blah, blah. But there's not a great deal of imagination, which is a shame, because there's good stuff in daytime, isn't there?
There is. I mean, I caught the first episode of Moving On, which the Jimmy McGovern authored series, which I think was absolutely brilliant. I mean, the first episode centered on a fellow who was meant to be dead and came back 20 years later to visit his son at his wedding, which was wonderful for his mother as well. And she was there and went round a pillar in the church and saw him sitting there. And I mean, I thought she would have reacted, you know, more severely than she did, but in the end, the father and the son had a fight in the graveyard. I haven't seen a fight in a graveyard, rolling around on their dead daughter's grave. It was absolutely... It was
fantastic. Jimmy McGovern never changes, does he? He's not more delicate for daytime, apart from the language.
So, I mean, 5 stars for that, definitely. I mean, that is a quality series for daytime, whereas, I mean, I've drifted in and out of Doctors, literally, which I find quite hard going, really. So
yeah, well, I find that quite hard going too. But I mean, the great thing about Doctors is I understand the BBC sort of almost use it as like a sort of, you know, a greenhouse for nurturing new writers and production talent. So, you know, Doctors does kind of serve its purpose. But yeah, everybody in it is quite irritating. You know, they sort of want a day off for something, and then they bring in the police, and it is quite irritating, I'm afraid, but you know, it serves its purpose. Ditto Father Brown as well, which is nice because it's got 50s frocks in and some good guest stars.
Yeah, we like a man in a cassock, basically. So
everyone loves a man in a cassock. Who doesn't? Man in a cassock. That sounds like an ITV3 thing with from 1964, doesn't it? Starring Roger Moore. Man in a cassock, man in a suitcase, man on some concrete.
Did you catch any of the Caroline Aherne of the BBC doc?
No, I thought that was an object lesson in how to do a tribute programme, because we've had, haven't we, so many Victoria Wood tributes. And I didn't mind the series on Victoria Wood where her friends talked about her work, but there was a Victoria Wood tribute where they brought in some academics to talk about her work. And I thought it was completely unnecessary. But in the Caroline Aherne, we had John Thompson, you know, appearing again after he was in McDonald and Dodds, just introducing some lovely clips and offering some proper insight into Caroline as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw her doing stand-up, which I don't think I'd ever seen. You know, so there were quite long clips of her doing stand-up, and she was an absolute natural at that, wasn't she? We were so used to seeing her in the royal family, and then she pops up in stand-up. I loved it. I loved it. You're right. Great insight from John Thompson, who obviously was very close to her. But interesting seeing those older clips of the royal family. It doesn't date at all, does it? You can drop into the royal family at any point, and you'll still get a brilliant laugh out of it, won't you?
Always. And I mean, the bit that they finished the programme with, which was oh God, it was Barbara and Jim and their mate, whose name I've temporarily forgotten. They're decorating and they're dancing to Mambo No. 5.
Yeah.
it was everything, wasn't it? It was physical comedy. It was a great little song. And you understood their characters from the way they started dicking about whilst dancing to Mambo Number 5, whilst getting some wallpaper off. It was the fun in these people and the warmth in the characters. You know, we love the royal family. We still love them. We always will. But it was just amazing, wasn't it? How that simple scene just made us feel everything about the royal family. The woman was a genius, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant writer. I mean, unfortunately, there wasn't a clip of the garage sitcom that she wrote while she was out in Australia for a spell, which I should have looked up the title of it, but I haven't. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll bring it with me next week. But I mean,
it'll be available on the non-existent website, David.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic little series. It was. I don't know if it was a full series. It might have been 4 episodes, set in a Bondi garage, and how and why it was conceived and commissioned, I don't know, but it was quite a gem. So it's nice to end on a royal family, isn't it? Really, we've gone from one royal family.
Absolutely, we've gone from one royal family to the other. I'm just trying to look up the Australian series
because this is crucial. We need to know.
It is crucial. I'm afraid I can't. I can't.
Unless it was just a figment of my imagination. Think, gosh, I wish.
No, I'm sure it was a thing because I mean it was almost one of those things. Oh, Dosser and Joe.
Dosser and Joe. There we are.
Yeah, which was screened on BBC Two in 2002 and did not return for a second series. So there you go.
That must have been my influence.
Yes, obviously. But yes, we've gone seamlessly from one set of royals to the other, and I think I'd sort of prefer Jim and Barbara and asking her if I've had my tea yet.
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
Harry and Meghan.
Absolutely. So on that note, we've been watching a lot of wonderful things, and they're all on various catch-up devices, aren't they?
Indeed, they are. And other catch-up devices are available, etc. Well, same time next week then, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy viewing.
Happy viewing.